Hello, students. Welcome back to our unit Reign of Love. Let's begin our lesson with a reading comprehension. The clever old woman. An old woman who was blind lived with her son and daughter in law. They were very poor. She spent her days praying. One day, God appeared before her and said he would reward her devotion by granting her a boon. The old woman did not know what to ask for. She talked to her son, her daughter in law, and her friends. Her son taught her to ask for wealth. No, ask for a grandson, her daughter in law said. You have many years left to live, her neighbor advised. Ask for your sight back. The old woman thought long and hard. The next day, when she sat down to pray and God appeared, she knew exactly what to ask for. I want to see my grandson drinking milk from a golden cup, she said. God burst out laughing. You are very clever. Why, you have asked for everything. God chuckled. But a promise is a promise, so I will grant your boon. Children, why did the old lady say to God that she wanted to see her grandson drinking milk from a golden cup? She was very clever that she wanted to be wealthy as per her son's advice. She wanted to see her grandson as per daughter-in-law's opinion. Meanwhile, she would be fulfilling the suggestion of her neighbor to get her eyesight back. God controlled his laughing and granted her the boon. Let's go back to our lesson, Life with Grandfather by Keshavan Shankara Pillai. When he was living with his grandfather and grandmother, one incident happened in his life. Let's read and understand it. Making a shower. It was an evening after a heavy rain. Grandfather was picking flowers from the jasmine bush under the sandalwood tree. The leaves of the tree were full of raindrops. I knew I could make rain if I shook the tree, and Grandfather and I would get a good shower. I liked bathing in the rain, but he might not like it, but it would be great fun. So I quietly went near the sandalwood tree and shook it with all my strength. There was a heavy shower and both Grandfather and I were soaked. I loved it, but Grandfather did not. He turned to me with an angry look. I was sure he would catch me and beat me. So I ran. He ran after me. I ran fast, but he ran faster. He had almost caught me when he stumbled and fell. I ran away to the paddy fields and hid myself there. I heard Grandfather shout that he would teach me a lesson when I came back home. I did not want to go home because I feared Grandfather would beat me. I stayed on in the fields. It was getting dark. I was afraid to stay there alone in the darkness. I remembered all the ghost stories I had heard. I stood up, looked around, and then ran towards home. I was still afraid to face Grandfather, So I did not go inside the house. I went to the cowshed and took shelter in the loft. From there, I could see grandfather sitting on the veranda saying his prayers. Grandmother was waiting for me. When I did not turn up, she looked for me everywhere in the house. Then she came out and called aloud for me, thinking that I was somewhere in the garden. She did not get any answer. Then she went to grandfather and asked him where I was. You look for him in the house, grandfather said. He's hiding somewhere. He's not in the house, grandmother said. I looked for him everywhere. One incident happened in Raja's life after a heavy rain in the evening. His grandfather was collecting jasmine flowers under the sandalwood tree. The leaves of the tree were full of raindrops after the heavy rain. The boy knew that if he shook the branches of the sandalwood tree, he and grandfather would feel rain again. Raja liked bathing in the rain just like other kids. Raja knew that he might not like it, but getting shower from leaves would be great fun. So Raja came near the sandalwood tree quietly and shook it with all his strength. There was a heavy shower of rainwater from the leaves, and both of them were soaked in water. Raja liked it. Grandfather did not like it. He turned to him with an angry look. Raja fled from there because he was sure grandfather would catch and beat him. Grandfather ran after me. Raja ran fast, but grandfather ran faster than Raja. When he was about to catch Raja, grandfather lost his balance and fell. Raja ran away to the paddy fields and hid himself there. Raja heard grandfather shouting that he would teach Raja a lesson when Raja came back home. Raja stayed on in the field. He did not want to return home. He feared grandfather would beat him because of his mischief. It was getting dark. He remembered all the ghost stories he had heard. He was afraid to stay there alone in the darkness. Raja stood up, looked around, and then he ran towards home. He was alone in that place, so he wanted to be with others at this time. He did not enter the house or go in front of grandfather. He was afraid to face grandfather. He went to the cowshed and took shelter in the loft. Loft is a small room at the top of the cowshed. From there, he could see grandfather sitting on the veranda saying his prayers. Grandmother was waiting for Raja. She looked for him everywhere in the house when he did not come there. Here you can see a phrasal verb, turn up. It means appear or become visible. She came out and called loudly for him, thinking that Raja was somewhere in the garden. She didn't get any reply from Raja. Then she approached grandfather and asked him where Raja was. He replied Raja would be hiding somewhere in the house. He instructed grandmother to look for him in the house. Grandmother said Raja was not in the house. How was she aware of it? Grandmother looked for him everywhere in the house. Here we can see the feel of tension in grandmother. The same tension is going to grab grandfather also. Their mind became imbalanced with anxiety and fear. Children, hope you understood well. Let's discuss the last part of our lesson later. Thank you.